when we gather because God is more than us. And isn't that good news that He is more than us? Sometimes we come to church and we worship really a God of our own creation. The truth is there's a God bigger than any of us. Because you and I have weakness, you and I have need, you and I have problems. How many of you ever have to make a list in order to accomplish some tasks? Anybody a list person? As the older that I'm getting, the more I'm relying on a list. In fact, I've got my list here, my checklist of what to do today. So I thought I'd kind of bring a kind of behind-the-scenes look at what happens, at the Franks household. And so I've got my list here. Number 1, wake up. Still working on that one today. Shave, check. Shower, check. Everybody showered today? Everybody good? Fix hair. And some people call me a pessimist. No, I'm optimistic. I've got NA on that one, not applicable. Drive to church, preach, eat lunch, take a nap. Anybody got a similar list to that, maybe something close to that? At least got the nap on there? Well, so many of us ourselves find ourselves with checklists. And for many of us, we can't get anything done without a checklist. And so I thought about all the people that needed a checklist, and I had this idea that I would create some websites myself with already pre-planned checklists, but I tell you what, people have already beaten me to it. In fact, there are multiple websites out there. In fact, this one is called checklist.com. And if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing in life, all you've got to do is go to this website, and they have got it alphabetically arranged for you, and you can just download one and print it off for all these different categories, and then you've got life going on for you. In fact, here's some lists that are available. These are just some screenshots, but they've got it alphabetized, and here's some checklists. Maybe you might want one of these. Aches, if you have aches, you can go to a checklist. Actions, adoptions, if you have to deal with adults, there's a checklist for adults. Air purifiers, airlines, allergies. Anybody need that checklist right now? Yeah, it'd be great. Download that one. Amusement parks. Anger. Ants. Not uncles and aunts, but ants. A-N-T-S. And so I went through all these, and I began to find one. I looked at C, and there's a checklist for crossing the street on this website. And there's about 35 actions on crossing the street. Here's number 1. Be aware that getting hit by a vehicle, even one going slowly, can kill you. I am not making this up. This is a website that somebody has created, somebody's downloaded, and they're part of it. Number 2, be aware that people just like you have been killed crossing the street. Number 3, ask an older person to help you cross the street. So Grant, I might need some help later if you would help me cross the street over there. Determine the safest place to cross, usually a crosswalk. Number 4 or 5, remember that painted lines cannot stop a vehicle. I'm not making this up. You can go to checklist.com, and I've got 2.5 pages of crossing the street for you, checklist. So then I thought, well, if there's that many pages for crossing the streets, I wonder what there is one for crossing the desert. And so I looked up the one for crossing a desert, and there's one, drink lots of water. I'm serious. I mean, there's the screenshot. Drink lots of water, don't wait until you're thirsty. So, I mean, that's all there is for the checklist on that. So I don't know, but so many of us, and we thought crossing the street was easy, but apparently not. So many of us, though, who are wired for checklists, and many of you admitted that you wired for checklists. How many of you got a checklist with you right now? No? Okay, a couple of people do? Okay. How many of you got a checklist already made for tomorrow? Yeah, all right. You already do. Some of you don't know. Tomorrow may never come. Why worry? There's all kinds of people in the world. We try to appeal to all of them, but if those of us who are wired by checklists to make sure that we accomplish what we're supposed to accomplish, if we're not careful, we will approach Christianity as a checklist. And we will approach following God and doing what we're supposed to do as a checklist, and we'll just go through our lives checking off what we're supposed to be doing and what we've done as if we are okay when we do that. But if you approach the Christian lifestyle, the Christian life, you've missed out completely on what it means to really follow Christ. Yes, there are some things that we're supposed to do, and yes, there's some things we're not supposed to do, but following Christ is not just a mere matter of filling in marks on a checklist. It is a pursuit of God. But so many times we get confused. Take, for instance, our passage today. We're in Romans chapter 12. We've been in Romans chapter 12 for a long time. I love the passages. They're really affecting me. I hope they're challenging you. But in Romans chapter 12, verse 15, when we come to this verse today, this would be very, very easy for us to put on our Christian life checklist, our following Jesus checklist, and say, okay, good, we're done. We get to go to the next thing. Because that's what's great about a checklist, isn't it, right? Because once you've checked it off, it's what? Done. And for some of us, we need that sense of satisfaction, that sense of security of knowing that we have checked something off our list. And if we come to this passage, though, and think that this is a checklist for us, we will miss out on all the things that God has for us. Because this one would be easy, right? To rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. Now, that'd be pretty easy to do, right? This is the wedding season. And so if you want to rejoice with people who are rejoicing, all you got to do is go to a wedding and see everybody happy in the great time that they're having, maybe except for the in-laws and the outlaws. But at least the two people that are on stage, they, at this point, still love each other. In fact, at this point, they still like each other, though that will change over time, probably, right? They don't stand up here saying, in 6 years we're going to be in divorce court arguing about where all our stuff goes. They're not there yet. They are really enjoying the moment, and they like it. And if you go to these things, you'll see some happy people, and you can rejoice with them and probably get some free cake and punch while you're there. But this is not a call for us as Christians to go to weddings and go, oh, this is so wonderful, and this is the prettiest wedding you've been, oh, how wonderful, and rejoice with them. Neither is it a call or a mandate for us to go to a lot of funerals and be around people who are mourning. But if we're not careful, we can look at this passage and reduce our Christian following of God, our pursuit of Him, into these simple categories. Now, is it true that there is benefit and importance of being around those people who are rejoicing? Yes, there is. One of my favorite words in the Bible, there's two favorite words. The first word is but. I love that word, B-U-T, but. Because Scripture is constantly telling us all how bad things are and what's trouble we're in. And then it goes, but Jesus lives. The other word that I love is this word with. Because there is power for us to be with those who rejoice. And I'm saying for us that we should rejoice with those who rejoice, and we should mourn with those who mourn, because there's something powerful that happens when you are with someone. We have a very highly competitive family. My family is very competitive. And we have had to implement a rule that I've heard from somebody else, and the rule is this, that whoever wins the game has to pick up and put up the game. Okay? Because we're very competitive. And if we're playing Monopoly, we want to win. I'm not there to make my children feel good about life. I'm to teach them that there is winning and losing. Right? So I'm there to teach them. Compassion comes some other time. I don't know when. But it doesn't come then in the middle of Monopoly or some other sport. But because we are so competitive, we have a tendency that whoever wins wants to declare that they are winners and everyone else are losers, right? So what we have chosen to do is that whoever wins has to pick up the game, to which the rest of us promptly, upon losing, leave the room. Because it is very, very difficult to do the I am greater than you dance, I am wonderful, perfect, when there is no one there to see it. Because there's power about rejoicing together. Have you ever won something and it's been great and you want to rejoice with somebody and you look around and you're the only one there? It's a kind of a bummer, isn't it? There's power in us rejoicing with others who are rejoicing, and we ought to be there. We should be there. We're designed for that. There is joy in that. And there's also some pain and difficulty when you're going through a tough time and you're really, really weeping or mourning about something, and then there's no one there to carry that with you. That's a very devastating thing. Mourning alone is so difficult. And in fact, in many cultures, when there's a funeral, they have a concept where you pay people who are professional mourners who come around you to mourn with you to make you feel better as you're mourning, because there's nothing worse than mourning alone. And we should do all of those things. And there is power that when someone is winning, that you're there cheering them on. There's power when someone is just lost, and they will come beside you and understand and pick you up and carry you. There's benefit of that, but this passage means so much more than just those things. you see, I'm a little messed up. I'm a little warped. I'm a little wired differently. And so I will look at a passage, and I will try to turn that passage over, and I'll look at it from different areas, and I'll go backwards, and I'll go upside down, and I'll try to look at this passage. And one of the things that hit me as I looked at this is, why is this a commandment in the first place? Why is this a command to us? Why would Paul write this down? And it must be that there are some of us, many of us, who do not do these things. And so I began to think about, why would it be that I would not rejoice with somebody when they're rejoicing? Why would it be, as a believer, why would I not mourn with those who are mourning? And I've come up with a couple of solutions, a couple of reasons that we might do that. One of the reasons is that so many of us are busy. Aren't you busy? How many of you are busy? Okay, then the rest of you should feel guilty that you're not busy. What are you doing? You're being lazy, right? People call me, "Hey, Pastor, what are you doing? Are you busy?" Let's see, you pay my salary, and you're calling me during the day, and you want to know if I'm busy. If I say that I'm not busy, that means I'm not doing anything, and you're not paying me what I'm supposed to be paying. But if I'm saying I am busy, I don't have time to talk to you, and I'm supposed to be talking to you, because that's what you pay me to do. It's kind of a catch-22, isn't it? You know, your boss comes by, "Hey, are you busy?" "Oh, no, boss, I'm doing nothing." Not a good call, right? We are wired to be busy. We think we're supposed to be busy. And when we're not busy, we think there's something wrong. And so many of us have adopted a lifestyle where we are constantly busy. It's funny to talk to people who get to retire. And I'll say, "What are you doing at the time?" "Oh, I've never been more busy in my life than since I retired." Have you heard somebody say that? Well, go back to work and be a lazy bum then, I guess is what you ought to do if you're retired and you work for yourself and you're busy. We just live a busy life. And it might be that we're so busy that we don't have time to rejoice with the people rejoicing, and we don't have time to mourn those mourning because we're too busy. Do you know that busyness, though, can be a sin? Another thing I thought of, some of us are just not wired to be around people. How many non-people do we have in the room? See, they're not here. They're not even here, just me, and I got a big room. I got a lot of personal space up here, so I'm fine. Some people are just not wired to be around other people. Some people are extroverts, and they just love people. You know, you put them in a room with people, and they're like, people, this is so much fun. Right? Me, you put me in a group of people, and I'm kind of stepping back all the time, saying, "How can I get out of here? You know, what can I do?" Because I'm just not wired to do that. I'm not a people person. And so some of us are not wired that way. Some of us just really don't care. We see people as an obstacle of what you're trying to get to. Has that ever happened to you? And go to Walmart. You just want one thing, maybe two things. And Walmart knows they put one thing over there and they put the other thing over there that you're trying to get. Right? And you try to get there, and there's all kind of people in your way of where you're trying to get to. And you come to the deodorant aisle, and you really don't care, but there's like 15 people in the deodorant aisle. There's a special or something. And all these people are in your way, and you don't even see them as people. You may smell them, but you don't really see them as people. And you're just like, "Hey, would you get out of the way? Excuse me, I kind of got through here." And you kind of got to push your way through. It was amazing that at this conference yesterday to be there with 3,500 men and trying to get out of the parking lot. And how quickly everything the guys talked about in the room, I think I lost before I got out of the parking lot. Right? Why is that? Because we look at other people, we see them as a problem. We don't care about them. We're trying to get our thing accomplished. But there's even something more deeply here that affects us than that. See, sometimes we don't want to rejoice with people who are rejoicing because we're envious of them. Have you ever wanted something and then your best friend got it instead of you? Girls, maybe there was a boy that you fought over. And now looking back, you go, "Whoo, I'm so glad she got him," right? Because you're trying to get rid of the one that you have now, and you're just trying to slide them out of the way. Or maybe have you ever gone up with a job, and you've interviewed for a job, and you and your friend are both interviewing for this position. Maybe it's an internship, maybe it's a big position, and one of you get it, and the other doesn't get it, and they win. "Oh, guess what? I got the job." And you're like, "Hey, that's great. I have it. Wonderful. Nice. You made the team. Ah, nice. I didn't." Sometimes it's hard to rejoice for those who rejoice because we're envious of them. Well, what's even worse, though, is when our enemies win. It's pretty bad when your friend wins and wins something that you want. It's worse when the bad guys win. You know what? The bad guys do win sometimes, don't they? Monday night, I'm cheering for Butler. I like Butler. I don't know why. Got a young coach, young guy in his 30s. I'm cheering for the coach. And those guys couldn't hit a bucket if their life depended on it. And UConn wins. If you're from Connecticut, that's okay. God forgives all kinds of things, so that's fine. But how can you cheer for that program and what's going on when you're cheering for Butler? And so at the end of the game, you see all the ticker tape comes down, all the excitement, all the glitter, and yeah, everybody's cheering, and you know what I do? Click. Isn't that what you do when you don't win? You don't sit there and hear the inspirational stories. You don't hear people have overcome those challenges. You go, click, what else is on? See, we don't want to rejoice sometimes with those who rejoice because we don't like them. And we don't think they should get to rejoice if we don't get to rejoice. But the opposite's also true. Sometimes we don't mourn with those who mourn because we're glad they're mourning. It was kind of funny last week. I just kind of threw that in about, driving down the road and someone passing you and you cheering that the cop pulls them over. I had so many people respond to that. Like, we're not supposed to do that. But that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to cheer for the bad guys to get caught. I mean, that's not. I got to think about that, Pastor. I don't know if I believe that. Sometimes you're glad that the bad guys lose, and you go, ha ha, ta-da. That's what you deserve. I'm so glad that you finally get what you deserve. Have you ever done that to somebody? Yeah. And maybe they do, but somehow, some way, we're supposed to come alongside them. And not just so, I'm so sorry, and you're smiling, going, I'm so glad I'm having to do this, that you really feel that. See, that's the countercultural nature of the gospel. It makes sense for us to rejoice with those that we want to win and be mad at those who lose, but the gospel says something different. We are to rejoice with anybody who rejoices, even the enemy, and then when our enemy gets caught, even when we catch them ourselves, we are to mourn with them. All these things are at the same root of the matter. Whether it's not your personality, you don't feel comfortable, or whether you're envious or whether you're glad, all of those have the same root cause, and that cause is pride. I think the main reason that we don't rejoice with those who rejoice and we don't mourn with those who mourn is because of our pride. According to Wikipedia, pride is an inward-directed emotion that exemplifies a high sense of one's personal status or ego. Augustine said pride is the beginning of sin. Isn't that the way that it was started? The little serpent comes up, says, hey, did God say you could eat out of everything out of this beautiful garden? Did God really say that you could eat out of everything that's nice up here? Or did he withhold something from you? Adam and Eve go, you know what? God has withheld something from me. And I don't deserve for anybody to withhold something from me because I deserve it all. Now think about this. Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden, perfect, no kids at this point, right? I'll let some parents take the next couple of steps there of the situation Adam and Eve were in. Perfect. Everything is perfect. Everything is glorious. Life is good. They have a direct relationship with God. They can see him. They can encounter him. Everything is good. No kids. 2 people. I'll stop there. I want to say another line, but I'll stop. And Marvin just finally got it. Good job, Marvin. I know you brought your leadership team, my friends. That was leadership right there. That was leadership. We're glad y'all are here today, too, by the way. Leadership team from KA. But the servant comes in and says, you deserve more than what God's given you. And you look around, we got the whole Garden of Eden. Everything is perfect. There's no sin. Everything is just the way it's supposed to be. But there's one thing that God's kept from them, and that was what? One silly little tree. One little tree. And they go, you know what? We deserve that, too. Isn't that dumb? I'm glad we're not like that. I'm glad God hadn't poured out blessings all over us, but there's this one little thing that, boy, God, if you give me this one little thing, then everything will be okay, because I deserve this, right? I just saw a headline because I was afraid to read it, but the headline said this, that a certain percentage of women, 80% of women I think it was, would rather lose 10 pounds if it meant losing a year of their life. They would trade a year of their life if they could drop 10 pounds and keep it off. Some of you are saying, I'd give a whole decade if I can, I don't know. I don't know where you are. But what is it about us that whatever it is we have, God's given us blessing after blessing after blessing, that there's this one thing that we go, oh, wait a minute, oh, if I could just have this. Some of y'all in this church probably look at all the cool stuff Shad has. You go, oh, if I could just have that thing that Shad has, or if I could just look like Shad, or if I could just be Shad, or whatever it is. There's always something that we look at and we go, oh, if I just had that, that would be it. Until we get that, and then what happens? Oh, wait a minute, if I just had that. Why? Because we think we deserve it, and we have trouble with people who don't recognize that we deserve it, don't we? What do you mean I don't deserve this? What do you mean you're going to withhold this from me? What do you mean I don't deserve it? What do you mean by this? Why? It's all pride. And the root of our inability to follow Christ is our pride, because basically what pride does is saying this: I am more important than God. That's what it is. Basically, if you want to go boil it down, I am more important. I deserve something more than what I'm getting, whether it's health, whether it's good looks, whether it's more money, whether it's position and power and authority. Whatever I have, it's not enough because I deserve more, and I can't wait for everybody to get on the boat to understand that's what I deserve. That's called pride. So that when someone is offering something to you, then you take it and you take even more. But I got good news. You don't have to live that way. That's a choice that you make to live like this. Christ came to get us out of this mindset, to get us out of this so self-focused, self-consuming lifestyle. He came and died so that we can get out of that, and you can. You don't have to live like that. I know everything within us is inclined toward that, but you don't have to live that way. In fact, I'm going to give you a resource today that you can look up, that you can avoid these things, that you don't have to be this way. The resource comes from John Piper and DesiringGod.com. If you're not familiar with this website, and maybe it might even be .org, I don't know. You can look it up, Desiring God, and he has got a little message there, a little article called 10 Ways to Kill Pride. And in that article, it's the technical title of it is How to Fight the Sin of Pride, Especially When You're Praised. And I'm not going to give you all 10 of them today, but I want to just give you one, so that you can take this today, and any time that pride begins to rear its ugly head, you can appeal to this one thing so that you won't have a pride that ultimately kills you. Here it is. Number one, he constantly reminds himself that he is not self-existent. There's number one. Just work on this one. There's 9 more. Once you get this done, here's this one. I'm not self-existent. What does that mean? Well, how many of you right now would be honest with me and say you're hungry? You're hungry? Anybody hungry? Anybody hungry? Raise your hand. Okay, great. Do you know that if you're hungry, that is a recognition, that is a designed part of your body to let you know that you are not self-existent? It's to show you that you have a need outside of yourself. And what we do, though, oftentimes is we will sit there and go, boy, I'm hungry, and then your stomach makes that little rumbly sound. Remember Pooh, Winnie the Pooh? So rumbly in my tumbly. Remember that? And that rumbly in our tumbly gets a little bit louder, and then we kind of... You ever that happen to you? Maybe it's an important meeting, or it's real quiet, or everybody's praying, and then that happened to you? And you're trying to hold it in, aren't you? You're just kind of moving, and you're kind of doing ab work right there in the sermon. You're doing everything you can to try to hold that in because you don't want anybody else to know that you're hungry. You know what? We do the same thing in our life. We have needs, and we do everything we can to hide it. Oh, I'm good. Good. Why you been over walking like that? Oh, that's just the way I do it. It's fun. It's fun. Just like walking. Have you ever been the opposite extreme of that, though? And you really, really have to get to a restroom? Right? In fact, maybe that's the reason you're passing me on the road. It's maybe what it is, and you're driving really fast because you've got to get there. And you're wondering sometimes, am I going to get there? Am I not going to get there? Had those moments, right? Those things are showing us that we have a need beyond ourselves. And I could get into oxygen. I could get into the fact that our bodies can't live around kind of radiation. You've seen all that in Japanese, all that kind of stuff. These are reminders to us that we are not all that. In fact, I was just reading just yesterday. I found this picture, and this is a picture from the Sloan Sky Survey came out in January this past year, just January. If you're not familiar with this, they have been working on taking a sky map, a picture of the sky, and they've taken a 138 megapixel telescope, and for about 7 or 8, 10 years, they were cataloging the sky. And this is the culmination of that picture. Each dot on that picture, each point of light, represents something they found in the sky. Each pixel resolution is 1/13 trillionth of the entire sky. And they have put together this map, and it's only a third of the sky. They've only mapped a third of it. And they have found 500 billion objects in a third of the sky. But the pictures are only going 7 billion light years deep. You know what a light year is, right? I mean, it's this distance that light travels in a year. Light travels 186,000 what? Miles a second. It's the reason when you stand beside your door in your bedroom and you turn the light, it's traveling so fast you can't get to your bed before it gets dark. Tried that as a little kid? Say, I'm faster than light, right? I mean, whew, you can't even move, right? Y'all didn't try that as a little kid? Try it tonight. Try it tonight. Okay? Turn the light out, see if you can get in bed before it gets dark. Okay? 186,000 miles a second. It takes light 8 minutes. The light that we have right now outside took 8 minutes to get from the sun to here. So you take that amount of time and you go 7 billion light years. The time it would take light, if light was traveling for 7 billion years, and it only gets about halfway back to the beginning, they think. And we've only got a third of the sky, only going 7 billion light years back, and there's 500 billion objects in that. In this picture, they've got a design that you can go deeper and deeper, and just that little light, you can go even deeper in that picture and deeper in that picture and deeper in that picture because of that. And you know how all that started? God said, let there be. That's all he said. Let there be. God doesn't get hungry. God doesn't have to run to the restroom to make it. God doesn't have to worry about radiation. He spoke, and all of these things that we don't even understand yet, but 500 billion objects in a third of the sky, 7 billion light years deep, and they think it probably goes 14 or 15 billion light years. Not going to get into science today. Another day we'll talk about that. And you and I somehow think that we deserve everything we can get. Somehow. Because we think we're all that. If we got a 1978 car, somehow we think we ought to deserve a 19